The Milky Way galaxy had long been dominated by the Galactic Council, a governing body comprised of the most powerful alien civilizations. For millennia, these alien races had viewed the inhabitants of the small, distant planet known as Earth as nothing more than primitive, insignificant creatures, a mere blip on the cosmic scale. But all that was about to change. In the gleaming halls of the Galactic Council's central chambers, the delegates listened intently as the reports from the latest reconnaissance missions were delivered. It was Jessica Donovan, a brilliant young human scientist, who had unwittingly sparked this chain of events. Her groundbreaking research into quantum entanglement had led to the development of a revolutionary new communication system, one that could transmit information across vast interstellar distances with unprecedented speed and efficiency. The implications of this discovery were not lost on the Galactic Council. If this technology fell into the wrong hands, it could disrupt the delicate balance of power that the alien races had maintained for generations. Suddenly, the backward humans had become a threat to the established order, a threat that could not be ignored. This human technology poses a grave risk to our dominion over the galaxy, proclaimed Thyloth, the stern-faced reptilian delegate. We must act swiftly to ensure that it does not fall into the wrong hands. A murmur of agreement rippled through the chamber as the other delegates nodded solemnly. For the first time in memory, the Galactic Council was united in a single purpose: the subjugation of the planet Earth. "We will dispatch our most formidable fleet to the human homeworld," declared Gorthon, the imposing cyborg representative. "They will be given a simple choice: surrender the technology and submit to our rule, or face the full might of our combined forces." Jessica Donovan had no idea of the storm that was about to descend upon her world. Tucked away in her modest laboratory, she continued her research, blissfully unaware of the cosmic powers that were now fixated on her every move. As the Galactic Council's dreadnoughts were readied for the long journey to Earth, a sense of anticipation and trepidation hung in the air. The alien races had never faced a challenge like this before, a primitive, disunited species that had somehow managed to develop technology that threatened to upset the delicate balance of power. "The humans will be crushed," Thyloth hissed, his serpentine eyes narrowing. "Their so-called civilization will be reduced to ash, and their precious technology will be ours to command." Gorthon nodded in agreement, his cybernetic implants whirring with calculated precision. "Indeed, and once we have secured the human homeworld, the rest of the galaxy will fall into line. No one will dare defy the might of the Galactic Council." The delegates exchanged triumphant glances, their confidence bolstered by the sheer power of the fleet that was now making its way towards Earth. For the first time in a millennium, the Galactic Council was poised to expand its dominion, crushing any resistance that dared to stand in its way. But unknown to the alien overlords, a spark had already been ignited on the distant blue-green planet. Jessica Donovan, oblivious to the impending invasion, continued her work, driven by a boundless curiosity and a deep-seated desire to better the lives of her fellow humans. Little did she know that her discoveries would soon thrust her, and her entire species, into the heart of a galactic conflict that would shake the very foundations of the Milky Way. The news of the impending alien invasion spread like wildfire across the globe, igniting a surge of outrage and determination in the hearts of humanity. From the bustling cities of the West to the remote villages of the East, people of all nationalities and backgrounds united in a shared resolve to defend their home planet at all costs. At the forefront of this burgeoning resistance movement was Jessica Donovan, the unassuming scientist whose revolutionary technology had unwittingly provoked the Galactic Council's wrath. Thrust into the spotlight, Jessica found herself transformed from a dedicated researcher to a reluctant symbol of human defiance. We cannot simply sit back and allow these alien invaders to subjugate us. Jessica declared at a hastily organized press conference, her words echoing with a conviction that belied her soft-spoken nature. The future of our species, our very way of life, hangs in the balance. We must stand together, united in our refusal to surrender to these would-be conquerors. Her impassioned plea resonated with the global audience, sparking a surge of patriotism and a renewed sense of purpose. Across the world, leaders of nations that had long been divided by ideological, political, and cultural differences put aside their differences, recognizing the urgent need to pool their resources and technological expertise in the face of the common alien threat. In the halls of power, hastily convened summit meetings gave birth to ambitious plans for a coordinated global defense. Engineers, scientists, and military strategists worked tirelessly, driven by a shared sense of urgency, to develop new weapons and defensive systems that could counter the overwhelming firepower of the Galactic Council's fleet. We may not have the numbers or the sheer technological might of our alien adversaries, said General Nakamura, the seasoned commander of the newly formed Earth Defense Force, but we have something they can never truly understand: the unbreakable spirit of humanity. We will fight for our freedom, our families, and our very way of life, and we will not be defeated. As the alien dreadnoughts drew ever closer, the people of Earth braced themselves for the coming storm. In cities and towns across the globe, civilians volunteered for civil defense duties, learning to operate the hastily deployed defensive systems, and preparing to offer what support they could to the brave men and women on the front lines. Jessica Donovan, her once quiet life now thrust into the glare of the global spotlight, found herself at the center of the maelstrom. Besieged by requests for interviews, strategic consultations, and public appearances, she worked tirelessly to lend her expertise to the burgeoning resistance effort, all the while grappling with the weight of the responsibility that had been thrust upon her. "I never asked for this," she confided to her closest friend, a fellow scientist named Dr. Akiko Tanaka. "I'm just a researcher, trying to expand the boundaries of human knowledge. I never wanted to be the face of a galactic war." Akiko placed a reassuring hand on Jessica's shoulder, her eyes reflecting the same steely determination that burned in the hearts of millions of her fellow Earthlings. "But you are, Jess," she said quietly. "And whether you like it or not, the fate of our world now rests on your shoulders. All we can do is meet this challenge head-on and show the Galactic Council that they've underestimated the resolve of the human race." Jessica nodded, her expression hardening with newfound resolve. She knew that the days ahead would be filled with unimaginable challenges and sacrifices, but she also knew that she could not afford to falter. The future of her species and the entire planet depended on her, and the millions of ordinary men and women who were willing to stand and fight alongside her. As the massive alien fleet continued its relentless approach, the people of Earth braced themselves for the battle of their lives. The day of reckoning had finally arrived. As the massive alien fleet emerged from the void of deep space, its towering dreadnoughts casting long shadows over the blue-green orb that was the planet Earth, a hush fell over the beleaguered defenders. Jessica Donovan, standing alongside General Nakamura and a cadre of the Earth's top military and scientific minds, gazed up at the imposing alien vessels with a mixture of awe and trepidation. She knew that the fate of her world hung in the balance, and that the technological advantages the human race had managed to develop might not be enough to turn the tide of the coming battle. "They're moving into attack formation," Nakamura growled, his weathered features etched with grim determination. "Our early warning systems have detected a massive energy buildup in their main weapons systems. They mean to demonstrate their power and force our surrender. Jessica swallowed hard, her mind racing as she considered the implications of the alien onslaught. "We have to buy time," she said, her voice steady despite the turmoil within. "If we can hold them off long enough, maybe we can find a way to turn the tide of the battle." Nakamura nodded, his expression darkening. "That's the plan, Doctor. Our forces are ready. They'll fight with everything they've got. But we both know the odds are stacked against us." With a terse nod, the general turned and strode towards the command center, barking orders and rallying his troops for the impending clash. Jessica watched him go, her heart pounding in her chest, before steeling her resolve and following in his wake. As the alien dreadnoughts unleashed a barrage of devastating energy weapons, the sky above Earth erupted in a blinding display of fire and fury. The hastily assembled human defense forces, wielding a patchwork of advanced technologies and experimental weaponry, fought with a ferocity that belied their numerical and technological disadvantage. Fighter craft darted between the alien behemoths, raining down missiles and laser fire, while ground-based missile batteries and rail guns unleashed a withering hail of projectiles. Jessica watched the battle unfold from the command center, her hands gripping the edge of the console as she silently willed her fellow humans to hold the line. To the shock and disbelief of the alien commanders, the human defenders were managing to inflict significant damage on the invading fleet. Their tactics, while unorthodox, proved surprisingly effective as they exploited the weaknesses and limitations of the alien technologies. How is this possible? Tyloth, the reptilian delegate, hissed in fury as he watched the battle unfold from the safety of the Galactic Council's chambers. Those primitive creatures should be cowering before us, not standing their ground. Gorthon, the cyborg representative, remained silent, his cybernetic implants whirring as he analyzed the flow of the battle. "They are adapting," he said finally, his voice tinged with a hint of unease. "Their strategies are becoming more sophisticated with every passing moment. We may have underestimated them." Back on Earth, Jessica and her team of scientists continue to work feverishly, feeding the latest intel and tactical assessments to the defending forces. As the battle raged on, they uncovered new vulnerabilities in the alien systems, sharing the intelligence with the pilots and ground crews in a desperate bid to turn the tide. "Keep it up, everyone," Jessica shouted, her voice carrying over the din of the battle. "We're making a difference. Don't give up now." The human defenders, inspired by Jessica's words and the knowledge that the fate of their world hung in the balance, fought with a renewed vigor, their determination to prevail against the alien invaders burning brighter than ever. As the sun began to set over the smoking, war-torn landscape, the Galactic Council's fleet was forced to retreat, its once formidable armada battered and bloodied by the savage tenacity of the human resistance. In the halls of power, the alien delegates stared at one another in stunned silence, their confidence in their inevitable victory now shattered. The battle for Earth had only just begun, but the message was clear. The human race would not go down without a fight. The Galactic Council, stung by the unexpected resilience of the human defenders, convened an emergency session to determine their next course of action. Tempers flared as the alien delegates argued fiercely, their pride wounded by the humiliating retreat of their once formidable fleet. "This cannot be allowed to stand," Tyloth, the reptilian representative, hissed, his serpentine eyes blazing with fury. "Those primitive humans have dared to defy the will of the Galactic Council. We must crush them, utterly and without mercy." Gorthon, the impassive cyborg delegate, raised a hand to quiet the room. "Rash action will only lead to more losses. We must reconsider our strategy and deploy our most elite warriors to ensure the swift subjugation of the human race. After much heated debate, the Galactic Council reached a consensus. They would dispatch their most formidable champions, warriors renowned for their unparalleled skill and prowess in battle, to personally lead the next phase of the invasion. The humans will be given a simple choice, Styloth declared, his voice dripping with malice. Surrender their technology and submit to our rule, or face the wrath of our greatest champions. They will learn the true cost of defying the might of the Galactic Council. As the news of the alien champions' impending arrival reached Earth, a palpable sense of unease spread through the ranks of the human defenders. Jessica Donovan, her brow furrowed with concern, gathered her team of scientists to discuss the implications of this new development. These champions, whoever they are, must be formidable indeed if the Galactic Council is placing so much faith in them, she mused, her fingers tapping nervously on the console. We've managed to hold them off so far, but I fear that facing their greatest warriors may be more than we can handle. General Nakamura, his weathered face etched with determination, stepped forward. We've come too far to give up now, Doctor. Our people have fought with valor and courage, and I have no doubt they will continue to do so. We may be outmatched, but we have the advantage of fighting for our very way of life. Jessica nodded, her expression resolute. Then we must find a way to level the playing field. If we can't outmatch them in raw power, we'll have to outsmart them. I'll need your full support, General, and the cooperation of your best troops. This is our last chance to save our world. As the alien champions arrived, their towering forms and awe-inspiring displays of power striking fear into the hearts of the human defenders, Jessica and her team worked tirelessly to devise a plan that could turn the tide of the battle. The champions, led by the savage reptilian warrior Thrax and the ruthlessly efficient cyborg commander Zoloth, wasted no time in engaging the human forces. Their movements were fluid and graceful, their weapons devastating in their precision and power. Jessica watched the battle unfold from the command center, her fingers flying across the console as she and her team fed vital intelligence and tactical adjustments to the defending forces. But even with their best efforts, the human troops were struggling to withstand the onslaught of the alien champions. "They're too strong," one of the young pilots reported, his voice trembling. "We're taking heavy casualties, and our defenses are crumbling. I don't think we can hold out much longer." Jessica's expression hardened with resolve. "We can't give up, not now. Keep fighting, keep adapting. I've got a plan, but I need a little more time. Can you give me that?" The pilot hesitated for a moment, then nodded determinedly. "For Earth, we'll give it everything we've got." As the battle raged on, Jessica and her team worked feverishly, their minds racing to uncover the key to turning the tide. The fate of their world hung in the balance, and they knew that failure was not an option. As the human defenders continued to falter under the relentless onslaught of the alien champions, Jessica Donovan knew that they were running out of time. The fate of the world hung in the balance, and she refused to let her planet, her people, be subjugated by the arrogant alien overlords. "We have to try something," she said, her eyes burning with determination as she addressed her team of scientists. "These champions, as powerful as they are, must have weaknesses. We just have to find them." The team set to work, their fingers flying across the consoles as they analyzed every scrap of data they could gather on the alien warriors. They scoured the battle footage, studied the patterns of their movements, and delved into the technical specifications of their weapons and armor. "There!" exclaimed Dr. Akiko Tanaka, her face alight with excitement. "They're energy shields. They're powered by a complex network of interconnected systems. If we could find a way to disrupt that network, we might be able to overwhelm their defenses. Jessica nodded, her mind racing. And if we can get through their shields, we'll have a chance to strike at their weak points. But we'll need to time it perfectly. One mistake, and we're finished. The team worked tirelessly, devising a plan that would give the human defenders the best chance of success. They knew that the stakes had never been higher, and that failure was simply not an option. As the alien champions continued their relentless assault, the human forces began to adapt, their movements becoming more coordinated and their tactics more sophisticated. Inspired by Jessica's unwavering leadership and the knowledge that the fate of their world hung in the balance, the defenders fought with a renewed vigor, their determination to prevail shining through in every shot fired and every daring maneuver. Thrax, the savage reptilian champion, roared in frustration as his energy blasts were deflected by the humans' increasingly effective countermeasures. Xyloth, the cold and calculating cyborg commander, scanned the battlefield with growing unease, his cybernetic implants whirring as he struggled to comprehend the humans' adaptability. "How is this possible?" The reptilian growled, his clawed hands tightening around the hilt of his energy sword. "We are the Galactic Council's greatest warriors. Our power should be absolute." Xyloth's response was calm and measured, but there was a hint of uncertainty in his voice. "It would appear that the humans have found a way to exploit the weaknesses in our defenses. We must adapt our tactics, or we risk being overwhelmed." As the battle raged on, Jessica and her team continued to feed vital intel to the human defenders, guiding them towards the critical moment when they could strike a decisive blow against the alien champions. The tension in the command center was palpable, every second feeling like an eternity as the human forces waited for the perfect opportunity to unleash their plan. Finally, the moment arrived. With a series of precise maneuvers, the human fighters managed to disrupt the energy shield network surrounding the alien champions, exposing their vulnerable systems to the full might of the human arsenal. "Now," Jessica shouted, her voice carrying across the command center. "Hit them with everything you've got." The human defenders unleashed a devastating barrage of missiles, railgun rounds, and laser fire, slamming into the exposed weak points of the alien champions. Thrax and Xyloth, their invincibility shattered, were caught off guard by the sudden onslaught, their armored forms shuddering under the relentless assault. As the dust cleared, the human forces held their breath, waiting to see the fate of their hated foes. And when the smoke finally parted, the sight that greeted them sent shockwaves through the Galactic Council. The alien champions, the embodiment of their might, lay defeated, their once formidable forms broken and battered by the savage determination of the human defenders. The Galactic Council, watching the battle unfold from afar, were stunned into silence, their confidence in their inevitable victory now shattered. The humans had proven themselves to be far more than the primitive race they had so casually dismissed, and the balance of power in the galaxy had been irrevocably altered. Jessica Donovan, her heart pounding with exhilaration and relief, turned to her team, a newfound resolve burning in her eyes. "This is just the beginning," she said, her voice ringing with certainty. "We will not stop until we have driven these invaders from our world and secured our rightful place among the stars." The news of the human defenders' stunning victory over the Galactic Council's elite champions rippled through the galaxy, sending shockwaves that reverberated across the halls of power. In the chambers of the Galactic Council, the alien delegates exchanged horrified glances, their confidence in their inevitable triumph now shattered. "This cannot be." Xyloth, the reptilian representative, hissed, his serpentine eyes blazing with fury. "Thrax and Xyloth were our mightiest warriors, How could they have been defeated by those primitive humans? Gorthon, the cyborg delegate, remained silent, his cybernetic implants whirring as he processed the implications of this unexpected turn of events. After a long, tense moment, he spoke, his voice betraying a hint of unease. It would appear that we have underestimated the humans' resolve and their capacity for adaptation. Their tactics, while unorthodox, have proven highly effective in neutralizing the strengths of our elite champions. Pheloth slammed his fist on the table, his scales rippling with agitation. Then we must send in more forces, more champions. We cannot allow these insignificant creatures to defy the will of the Galactic Council. But Gorthon raised a hand, silencing the reptilian's tirade. That would be unwise. The humans have demonstrated an ability to adapt and learn from each encounter. Overwhelming them with sheer force may no longer be a viable strategy. The other delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats, their expressions mirroring the growing unease that permeated the chamber. The implications of this revelation were staggering. The Galactic Council, a governing body that had long wielded absolute power over the galaxy, now faced the prospect of a prolonged and costly conflict with a species they had once dismissed as nothing more than primitive, insignificant beings. "What do you propose, then?" Thyloth demanded, his voice dripping with grudging concession. Gorthon's cybernetic eyes narrowed as he considered the options. "We must reconvene and devise a new strategy, one that takes into account the humans' unexpected capabilities. Reckless aggression will only lead to further losses. We must be willing to adapt, as they have." The other delegates murmured in agreement, recognizing the wisdom in Gorthon's words. The battle for Earth had become far more than a simple subjugation of a backward civilization. It had evolved into a test of the Galactic Council's own adaptability and resilience. As the delegates debated the merits of various courses of action, back on Earth, the human defenders revelled in their hard-won victory. Jessica Donovan, her face flushed with triumph, addressed her team of scientists and military personnel, her words ringing with a newfound confidence. "This is just the beginning," she declared, her eyes shining with determination. "The Galactic Council has underestimated us for far too long, and now they're finally seeing the true strength of the human spirit. We've shown them that we will not go down without a fight, and that we are more than capable of standing up to their vaunted might." The assembled crowd erupted in cheers, their fists pumping the air in a display of unbridled jubilation. Jessica raised her hand, silencing them with a subtle gesture. "But our work is far from done," she continued, her voice sobering. "The Galactic Council will not back down easily, and we must be prepared for their next move. We've proven that we can adapt, that we can overcome even the most formidable of obstacles. Now we must use that same determination and resilience to drive these invaders from our world, once and for all." As the crowd roared its approval, Jessica turned to gaze out at the devastated cityscape, her expression hardening with resolute purpose. The battle for Earth had only just begun, and she knew that the road ahead would be long and arduous. But with the indomitable spirit of her people behind her, she was confident that they would emerge victorious. The Galactic Council would soon learn that humanity was a force to be reckoned with, and that the days of their unchallenged dominance were numbered. The Galactic Council convened in a state of unprecedented urgency, their chambers filled with a palpable sense of tension and unease. The defeat of their elite champions, Thrax and Zeloth, at the hands of the primitive human defenders, had shattered their confidence in the inevitability of their victory, and they were now faced with a decision that would have far-reaching consequences. Psyloth, the reptilian delegate, paced the floor, his scales rippling with agitation. "We cannot allow this insult to stand. The humans have defied the will of the Galactic Council, and they must be crushed, utterly and without mercy. We should assemble our full might and lay waste to their pathetic world. Gorthon, the cyborg representative, raised a hand, silencing the reptilians' tirade. Such a reckless course of action would only lead to further losses. We must consider our options carefully and devise a strategy that takes into account the humans' newfound capabilities. The delegates exchanged uneasy glances, the weight of their decision bearing heavily upon them. For the first time in a millennium, the Galactic Council found itself confronted with a challenge that threatened to upend the delicate balance of power that had long defined the galaxy. The humans have proven themselves to be far more than the insignificant creatures we had dismissed, said the avian delegate, her feathered brow furrowed with concern. Their adaptability and determination have caught us off guard, and we must be willing to adapt in turn if we are to prevail. Tensions ran high as the delegates debated the merits of various courses of action, each faction pushing for a strategy that aligned with their own interests and ideologies. Some advocated for a continued, relentless assault, while others argued for a more cautious, diplomatic approach. As the debate raged on, Jessica Donovan and her team of scientists and military strategists worked tirelessly to prepare for the Galactic Council's next move. They knew that the alien invaders would not back down easily, and they had to be ready to counter any new tactics or technologies the Council might deploy. "They're running scared," Jessica said, her eyes gleaming with a mixture of triumph and determination. The defeat of their champions has shaken their confidence, and now they're scrambling to find a way to regain the upper hand. General Nakamura, his weathered features etched with grim resolve, nodded in agreement, which means we have to be one step ahead of them. We've proven that we can adapt, that we can overcome even the most daunting of challenges. Now we need to find a way to turn the tables on them, to show them that we're not just a bunch of primitive upstarts, but a force to be reckoned with. As the debate in the Galactic Council chambers reached a fever pitch, Jessica and her team worked tirelessly to develop new strategies and technologies that could give the human defenders a critical edge. They knew that time was of the essence, and that the fate of their world hung in the balance. Finally, after hours of heated discussion, the Galactic Council reached a decision. Gorthon, the cyborg delegate, stepped forward, his cybernetic implants gleaming in the dim light of the chamber. "We will withdraw our forces from the human homeworld," he announced, his voice devoid of emotion. "However, we will not concede defeat. Instead, we will offer the humans a choice. Surrender their technology and submit to our rule, or face the full might of the Galactic Council." Silvoth hissed in protest, his eyes narrowing with barely contained fury. "You would show weakness, Gorthon. After all we have sacrificed, you would offer these. These humans underscore a chance to avoid their punishment." Gorthon raised a hand, silencing the reptilian delegate. "It is the only way, Xyloth. We have underestimated the humans, and we cannot afford to make that mistake again. If they refuse our offer, we will unleash our full power, and they will be crushed, regardless of their newfound capabilities." The other delegates, sensing the wisdom in Gorthon's words, reluctantly nodded in agreement. The fate of the galaxy now rested on the humans' response to the Galactic Council's ultimatum, a decision that would shape the course of history for generations to come. As the news of the Galactic Council's offer reached Earth, Jessica and her team braced themselves for the confrontation to come. They knew that the fight was far from over, and that the next phase of the battle would be the most crucial yet. The news of the Galactic Council's ultimatum swept across the globe, igniting a firestorm of outrage and determination among the people of Earth. After the hard-fought victories that had shattered the invaders' aura of invincibility, the idea of surrendering their hard-won freedoms and technological advancements was simply unacceptable. In the command center, Jessica Donovan and her team pored over the details of the Galactic Council's offer, searching for any potential weaknesses or loopholes they could exploit. General Nakamura, his weathered face etched with resolve, stood by her side, his hands clenched into fists. "They think they can force us to submit," the grizzled veteran growled, "but they underestimate the strength of the human spirit. We've come too far to back down now." Jessica nodded, her expression hardening. "Exactly. The Galactic Council may have the military might, but we have the will to fight for our independence. We just need to find a way to turn that to our advantage." As the human defenders prepared for the next phase of the conflict, Jessica and her team launched a multi-pronged diplomatic and technological offensive. They reached out to the other alien races within the Galactic Council, seeking to sow seeds of discord and exploit any cracks in the united front. The humans have proven themselves to be formidable opponents. Jessica argued during a series of tense negotiations. Subjugating our world would come at a great cost, both in lives and resources. Surely there must be a way for us to coexist, to forge a mutually beneficial partnership. To the surprise of the Galactic Council, some of the alien delegates proved receptive to Jessica's overtures. The prospect of a prolonged conflict, with all the attendant risks and uncertainties, made them wary of blindly following the hawkish agenda of more zealous factions like Xyloths. While the diplomatic maneuverings continued, Jessica and her team worked tirelessly to devise new technological countermeasures that could offset the Galactic Council's numerical and firepower advantages. They leveraged the revolutionary quantum communication system that had sparked the initial invasion, finding ways to disrupt the aliens' command and control networks. "If we can't match them in a direct confrontation," Jessica said, her eyes burning with determination, "then we'll have to find ways to undermine their ability to coordinate their forces. We've shown that we can adapt and overcome their physical might. Now we need to do the same with their technological superiority." As the deadline for the Galactic Council's ultimatum approached, the human defenders stood united, their resolve hardened by the knowledge that the fate of their world hung in the balance. Jessica, now a symbol of humanity's defiance, addressed the gathered troops and civilians, her words stirring the hearts of all who heard them. "We have faced insurmountable odds before, and we have emerged victorious. The Galactic Council may have the power, but we have the spirit of a people who will not bow to oppression, who will not surrender their hard-won freedoms. They may demand our submission, but we will respond with the roar of our righteous fury." The crowd erupted in cheers, their fists pumping the air in a display of unwavering support. Jessica raised her hand, silencing them with a subtle gesture. "The time has come to show the Galactic Council the true strength of humanity. We will not back down, we will not surrender, we will fight, and we will win." As the deadline passed, the Galactic Council's delegates watched with growing unease as the human defenders refused to capitulate to their demands. Xyloth, his scales bristling with rage, turned to Gorthon, his cybernetic counterpart. "So be it," the reptilian hissed. "If the humans will not submit, then we have no choice but to crush them with the full might of the Galactic Council." Gorthon, his expression unreadable, nodded slowly. "So be it." The next phase of the conflict was about to begin, and the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance.